The Fred Jackson Show on WBBZ-TV. Sponsored by Buffalo Wine and Brew, Transit Road, Depew. Brew beer, make wine. The Buffalo Roadhouse Grill, Niagara Falls Boulevard near the 290, where the Buffalonians roam. Duville College, educating for life. On the Rocks Liquor, Discount Liquors, Bailey Avenue, Buffalo. And Reimer Heating and Air Conditioning with the Wizard of Comfort and your hometown comfort professionals. Now, from the WBBZ-TV studio at the Eastern Hills Mall, it's time for the Fred Jackson Show with running back Fred Jackson and co-host Bob Kuczynski.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Fred Jackson Show. We're almost at the end of the Fred Jackson Show season, but ladies and gentlemen, the star of our show, Mr. Fred Jackson. And also tonight, of course, from 97 Rock, DJ Dave Jixter is in the house. And getting all your questions from Twitter, Mr. Brad Gelber. Brad? Okay, Fred. Happy holidays. You end the season with a victory in New England, which is a milestone, and we're going to talk about all that. But the first thing I've got to talk to you about is the retirement of your quarterback, Kyle Orton. Now, they would have to drag you from the league kicking and screaming. We've talked about it many times. To voluntarily retire, it's just not going to happen with you. So what's your take on Kyle walking away from the game?
Well, I mean, like you said, you got to do everything you can to get me off of a field. But, you know, some guys just aren't the same way, you know, and, you know, he's had a long career. And for him, you know, he just decided to talk to his family and make that decision to call it quits. And, I mean, as a player who's played a while and somebody that's been around him in the way that he, you know, prepares for games, you got to just respect that, you know. And, you know, granted, it wasn't, I don't know, done in an ideal situation, but, you know, he did, you know, make the decision and he went with it. So as a player who, you know, was in that locker room with him, you just respect him and, you know, hope the best for him.
Did you have any inkling that he was going to hang it up after yesterday's game?
I did not. You know, I actually didn't know about it until I got asked a question about it. You know, I was in the locker room and media came up to me and asked me, you know, what I thought of him retiring, and, you know, it was the first that I had heard of it. You like Kyle Orton? I do. I like him a lot. You know, he's a guy that busts his butt, you know, in the film room. He's constantly going to every position, you know, letting him know what he's thinking. He's a great veteran leader, you know, a guy that has been in a lot of different places and, you know, is very knowledgeable of the game.
Fred, teams can grow up together. They can learn how to win together. We saw that with the great Bills Super Bowl teams. You know, they had a couple of years where they won a couple of games and then finally got over that hump. This team won 3 more games than last year, but now you're going into next season without a quarterback, at least a quarterback that finished the season for you. Do you think that'll set this team back?
You know, I think we've been dealt a lot of different adversities, you know, this season especially, you know, with the snowstorm and with the changing of ownership and things like that, things that you're not accustomed to. And this team has just dealt with those punches. And this is another punch that we'll have to deal with. I don't think it's going to set us back. I think whoever, you know, takes over as a quarterback, whether it be EJ, which, you know, he's done everything he can to get himself ready for that, you know, so guys are, you know, excited to see what he brings to the table now if he gets another chance. If they bring somebody in, you know, I think whatever happens, this team is going to be ready and willing to take that next step.
You defeat the New England Patriots in New England. As I said, it's a milestone. You've never won in that stadium. How much tarnish is on that victory, though, because they don't play all their starters?
None. In this league, it's hard to beat anybody, you know, and those guys that played yesterday, are professionals that get paid to play the game just like we do. Granted, Tom Brady's a heck of a quarterback and one of the best in the league, but you still got to play everybody else on that field, and you have to show up, strap up your pads, and go out and play against and compete against whoever's on that field. And they had a helmet that said New England Patriots on the side of it, so we beat the New England Patriots yesterday.
Let's look at the stats here. Offensively, last year, if you look at the rushing yards, we talked about this a little bit last year. You had almost 900 yards more rushing last year. You had about 500 more passing yards this year. Ironically, the scoring, we looked at the stats. You had one more defensive touchdown this year, one more special teams touchdown. So the scoring is about the same. But you had 500 yards more passing, but 900 less yards rushing. We talked about it. You think that's a real indicator of what one of the struggles was for this unit this year offensively?
Without a doubt. To be able to win and constantly win in this league, you have to be able to run the ball. And we did not do that well at all this year. And for that, guys, struggled, in the passing game. There were games that, Kyle struggled in. And a lot of that had to do because we couldn't run the ball. And whenever a team makes you one-dimensional, it's hard to make hay, out there as an offensive unit.
Do you think it was a lack of will in training camp? Perhaps the offense wasn't set up to be as efficient running the ball, that maybe some changes were made to pass the ball?
I don't think so. I think we just, bottom line, didn't get the job done this year when it comes to running the ball. When we played against teams, we played against a lot of great running teams, run-stopping teams this year. And I think that hurt us. But more than anything, we just didn't get the job done. And, when we played teams, we were out-physicaled. And, they shut us down when it came to the running game.
Well, if it means anything, Fred, last night I went to see my mom, and the first thing she said was, I feel so bad for that Fred Jackson. He takes so many hard hits out there on that field, he just won't go down. So,
well, tell Mom I think I love that, and I appreciate it.
She's watching right now. So next year, maybe just go down once or twice so she doesn't feel so bad. We'll be back. More with Fred Jackson right after this.